Hello everyone, I'm Zhi. Thanks for the warm welcome. So you must be wondering, how does this have any relevance to do with IT architecture? Yeah? No? Who's thought that? No? Okay, never mind. I'm going to move on. So let me start by telling you my story. So I started tinkering with computers at a very young age. I remember back in the day, we were using MS-DOS, and I would experiment with commands like format C, and then my dad would have to spend hours inserting floppy disk after floppy disk to rebuild the system. And then I served in the military in Singapore. I'm from Singapore. I did a software engineering degree at Auckland University, and then I started my career as a software developer, coding in various different organizations. It was then I realized that the thing that really drew me, really made me passionate about my work, was the people element of IT. So then I moved into delivery management roles. I was lucky enough to look after the delivery team at Bauer Media and also the delivery team at Trade Me Property. So here I am now. I work as an agile coach at Mercury. Some of my teammates are over there. And I run an agile consulting business called Teamworx. So that is my story. And now as IT architects, we tell stories every day, knowing it or not. You're helping people tell their stories. You're helping them get from A to B. So that's how I'm trying to weave this into an IT architecture conference. Hopefully I'm not doing too bad. So today I would like to share a technique that I use with my workshops and my meetings. And it's going to be really, really interactive. So make sure you've got pen and paper. People down the back, maybe come sit down at the tables if you like. Pen and paper. Everyone's got pen and paper? Cool. So what I'm going to talk about today, this is my visual agenda. I'm going to introduce what Sketchnotes are. I'm going to show you some examples of Sketchnotes. I'll talk about my journey. I'll share how I started doing this stuff. And then we're going to move into the really practical part of the session, and that's how to sketchnote. At the end of it, I'll share some useful resources to help you get started. So I'm going to set the context by firstly talking about the power of visualization. An activity that I like to run at project inceptions when we kick off a new project is to visualize all the things that are going to keep us up at night. Are there any security folk in the room? One? I don't know if you can see that posted there under number 3. But it says, security folks changing their mind. And what are the risk mitigators? Get them lunch, free lunch, so come work at Mercury. But this is the power of visualization. This is a really useful artifact. This flip chart lives in the project area. So teams can talk to it. They can refer back to these risks throughout the project. This is another example of visualizing your work during a project inception. So this was the project inception where we got people to use Lego models to build a vision of the project. Now, does anyone know what that flexi bit on top could mean? I haven't got any prizes. No, that's actually the project sponsor saying that there is a bit of room to flex in scope because we're focused on the customer outcomes. And that is quite a powerful statement to make, and that has been drawn out using a Lego model. So this thing, someone laughed in the room about changes in scope. Anyway, this was a workshop that I ran to kind of document the process for the life cycle of a service desk ticket. Now, something really amazing happened. One of my colleagues at Mercury took this flip chart after the meeting, moved it into another meeting, and started drawing on that flip chart to kind of improve the process. So it's a really, really powerful artifact when you've got something tangible to take from one meeting into another. So what are sketchnotes? So that flip chart that I showed you before, that's a sketchnote. It's a rich visual note created from a mix of handwritten drawings, typography, shapes, icons, very simple elements that help to convey a message. Now, on a personal note, I was the person actually facilitating that workshop, and drawing actually helped me to distill the key ideas, to extract the key messages. And I don't know about you, but it actually helped me to make some connections with the content. It helps you remember stuff, and it's great for sharing. Now, there's 3 different evolutions to Sketchnotes. There's Sketchnotes, which is quite personal, and then there's graphic recording, which is live recording of a workshop, a meeting, or a seminar or conference. And then there's visual facilitation, which is graphic recording taken to the next level, where you're actually talking to some of those elements and expanding on it. Today, I'm just going to be talking about Sketchnotes, but the principles are very much applicable across all of these 3 different evolutions. So here are some examples of Sketchnotes. This one is sitting in the Chartered Accounts building beside the Carlo car park. It's about the design mindset by a lady called Fern Lucana, and she was sketchnoting a talk by Debbie Humphrey. This one here was someone sketchnoted the World Cup, so the match between Korea and Germany. It's in German. I can't read German, but you get the visual, the idea of what the match was like. Now, you don't have to be an artist to be able to sketchnote. In fact, my colleague there, Mike, is a lot of a better artist than I am, so you should look at his sketchnotes. This is an 8th grader in the US, and this is how she started, actually sketchnoting her lecture notes, her classroom notes. Over time, they evolved. She had lots of practice, and this is what it now looks like. So it takes practice, but you don't have to be an artist to get started. About a couple of months ago, I went to the Agile Australia conference, and I gave myself a challenge to sketchnote every talk in that conference. It was really funny because I was sharing my sketchnotes on social media live at the end of each session, and what I didn't realize was there was a bunch of student sketchnoters in that conference, and they were calling me the imposter. But it generated a huge amount of conversation. I generated lots of new connections, made lots of friends, and it's a really, really great way to meet people, talk to speakers, having something tangible to take to someone to say, here, these are my ideas, what do you think? So at the end of this conference, I actually printed out all the sketch notes and laid them out on a wall in the office. So this is a wall at Mercury Energy, and it's great. It's just generated heaps of conversation. So sketch notes are about ideas expressed through symbols, and you don't have to be an artist. It's not about art. Now, so if you look at that picture, that sketch there in the middle, that's a duck. And this one here is also a duck. They're the same thing. You don't have to be able to draw that to convey the same message. Now, ducks are my daughter's favorite animal, so I've drawn literally hundreds and thousands of ducks. They say that if you draw an icon 50 times, it becomes part of your visual vocabulary. Key quote there by Lynn Cazelli. She's a visual facilitator. It's smart, not art. You don't have to be an artist. In fact, this is how I started out. So this was a few years ago, and I was documenting a conversation happening live about one of those high-performing team things. Those really, really cool, engaging, high-performing team things. And really simple. I was a terrible drawer. This was another workshop about what Agile means to you. What I did essentially was I extracted the key themes from a post-it silent writing exercise, and I made a visual version of that. So I wasn't really good at drawing. But, and back then, I didn't know that this process was called sketchnoting. But essentially what I was doing was I was listening and then synthesizing the information, extracting the key ideas, and then visualizing it. So how I started telling visual stories. So I told you I'm a terrible drawer. In school, I actually got C's and D's for art. There was this huge period of blankness, nothingness. And then a few years ago, when I was working at Bauer at a strategy workshop in Sydney, one of my colleagues actually sketchnoted a conversation. And I was like, wow, I need to do this. And then I went to an Agile conference, and one of the speakers, Jeff Patton, the father behind User Stories, did this amazing thing where he was, and it was actually quite distracting, where he was drawing out processes and drawing user stories, but it was simply amazing to watch. And then I went to a session by Lynn Cazelli on visual facilitation. I took those ideas back to the office, and then I facilitated my first session, so those flip charts that you saw before where I couldn't really draw. Then I watched a TED Talk, I read a book, and now I'm here. I'm talking to you about Sketchnotes. So how to sketch. This is the really interactive part of the session, so make sure you've got your pen and paper ready. So, the basics. Everything you see around here is made up of the visual alphabet. So you have a point, a line, an angle, an arc, a spiral, and a loop. We call these things forms. So have a go at drawing those simple forms. And then you've got forms that are closed in, and they're called fields. You've got an oval, an eye, a triangle, rectangle, a house, and a cloud. Now, if you look at this face here, you'll see that it's pretty much, you can pretty much decompose it into all of those forms and fields. So I'm going to give you a little exercise here, okay? So I've got a little icon here of a security camera, and I'm going to get you to decompose the sketch into those 6 basic forms. So you've got a line here, you've got a curve there. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to decompose the sketch into those basic forms. Okay, second part of the exercise. You're going to take those decomposed forms, those lines and curves and dots, whatever you came up with, and build another sketch. So build something else out of those forms that you just decomposed. So put it back together and put it back into something else. I see a house over there. Third part of the exercise, this is the interactive bit. You're going to walk across to the other side of the room, introduce to someone who you haven't met before, and talk to them about your sketch. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that. Okay, I'll give you 10 more seconds to wrap up. Okay, thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed that exercise. Now, can we get everyone back to the tables? What are some of the things that people drew? Do you want to just shout out? What are some of the things that you drew? We've got a house. Yep, a house. What else do we have? What else do we have over here? A raindrop. Anyone else want to share what they drew? What they came up with? A padlock. So now, I've actually taught you two things with this really simple exercise. I've taught you that anything you see in this world can be pretty much decomposed into these basic forms. But I've also given you a tool. I've given you something tangible that you took to someone else to introduce yourself and have a conversation. So I hope you see how, that through that simple exercise, that simple artifact, taking something on a piece of paper that's tangible, taking that to someone else, it's a really, really powerful tool for starting a conversation. Now, the first thing that we got to do when we learn to sketchnote is to draw people. Now, there's 7 different types of people. We've got box people, star people, bean people, upside down U people, triangle people, and 3D people. So I'm going to do another fun little exercise. I'm going to get you to draw 9 eye people in a grid, 3 by 3. And we're going to bring those eye people to life. So I'm going to play a little video, and I hope you follow along. The video is about 5 minutes long. Do we have our 9 eye people? Okay, ready?
A really easy way to start sketchnoting is to add little people to your notes. They can add a lot of visual interest and convey a lot of information in a very easy way. Don't have to spend a lot of time doing the people. In fact, if you're at a lecture or in a meeting, it's very hard to spend a lot of time and add a lot of detail. So here's a quick way of adding people to your notes. I've drawn 9 boxes and 9 circles on top of those boxes, and now by drawing little lines with loops off the corners of my boxes, I've got a little person, and he's really fast to draw, and he can pack a lot of personality into his small frame. For instance, if you vary the angles of the arms, you can give him different postures. Give him some legs to stand on, and all of a sudden he's got one hand on one hip and one hand in the air. What about if we put both arms up in the air? Hooray! Our little guy's pleased to be here, or maybe he's signalling for help. What if we have one arm down and one arm up? Again, just 2 straight legs. This little guy, he's having a bad day. He's got his head in his hands just by bending both of those arms off the top of the box. What if we want to show movement? Again, bend those arms, one up, one down. You know what it looks like to run. You've got one foot on the ground and the other one up in the air. And all of a sudden you've got a running man. After all that running, we might be exhausted and want to just sit around and not do much. So splay those legs right out from the corner of those boxes and you're sitting down. It's interesting to look at how we position weight in our body and then reflect that in our little stick boxes. Our little box men, sorry. What about just 2 hands on hips, standing there like we know it all? But of course, a really great way to add expression is with some features on the face. So a couple of eyes and a nose. It's really all it takes. You don't even have to put a mouth in, though that really does help a lot of the time. A good reason to use a nose, even just a line for a nose, is that we can then orient the face. So we can have our little men looking to the left or the right, give them a bit more variety. That's just by shifting the line of the nose across the circle of the face. Let's make sure this runner knows which way he's going and watching what he's doing. We can look up by putting the eyes really high on the circle. We can glance to one direction or the other. And by varying the mouth expression, we get all sorts of different facial effects. Once we've got our little people, we can give them a reason for living. This guy's pretty chuffed with himself with his hands on his hips because his profits are going up, up, up. Really easy, just zigzags and squares. And now we've portrayed a whole story with just a stick man and a prop. This guy is pretty unhappy because he dropped his Coke on the ground and it's just spilled everywhere. What's he going to do? But his neighbour is a little happier. Circles and triangles, and all of a sudden he's got himself a balloon. No wonder he's happy. Wonder what's going on though. Where did he get his balloon from? Remember this dude with his hands up in the air? How happy was he to see you? So happy he made a banner. Banners are pretty easy to add and pretty effective. Don't take much time at all. Quite sure why this dude's doing. If he's pointing, that's a funny point. Maybe he's laughing at the poor guy who dropped his Coke. Add some dashes and our runner's moving pretty fast to deliver his baton or diploma or message or whatever he's delivering here. Give this little guy something to read. Maybe he's got his newspaper on the ground. Just spending a bit of time chilling out, reading his reports or his annual report or whatever it is he's reading. Boxes are great. Our mind does all the tricks. We can just put a few boxes together and hey presto, we've got ourselves a dog or a lamb or something here who does not want to go the direction this human wants to go. Practice, you little people. They're lots of fun.
Hope you enjoyed that. So now that we can draw little people, we can draw little groups of people. So combine your eye people or your upside down U-shaped people, smoosh those bodies together, and you can create a trio or even a larger group of people by drawing some circles behind them. And then put them on a platform, put them on a little platform. Maybe a database. I'm just trying to, never mind. Facial expressions. So I want you to draw a 4x4 grid. Draw on the top row, draw a dash, an upside down U and a U, and the same on the vertical column. And have a crack at this. So the row on the top makes the eyebrow and the mouth. Have a crack at mapping out these faces. So you've got eyebrows on top and the mouth's on the vertical. So if you ever stuck for ideas on drawing emotions, just use this really simple tool. Containers. All you need to do is really pick 2 or 3 and draw them really well. So I encourage you to pick 2 that you like, pick 2 and draw them. We'll give you 20 seconds, pick 2 and draw them. And if you didn't like those ones, then here's some more containers. Flags, scrolls, jigsaw pieces, signposts. Now you'll notice that some of those shapes have got different boundaries around them. By using different types of lines and different shapes of lines, you can actually create a character. So for uncertain things, draw dashed lines around your container. For ideas that are unformed, draw a cloud or a bubble. For something that's really static or something that a group agrees on, hard edges. Something that's dynamic, like a new idea or an action, a starburst or something similar. And then we've got connectors. I'm going to teach you to draw an arrow. Hopefully this doesn't sound too corny, but arrows are actually pretty hard to draw proportionally. So you start off with a top line, draw a top line, draw another line below that, 2 lines up and down, put a dot on the far right to demarcate where the arrow is going to extend to, and then join the dots. And that's how you draw an arrow. I've always struggled to draw arrows until I found this pretty cool technique. Lots of different types of arrows you can draw. Now, a symbol can have multiple meanings. So when we use Lego, for example, has anyone done a Lego workshop or Play-Doh or any? Yep. Yeah. So when you run a Lego workshop, you shouldn't be constrained by the blocks. Those blocks are really just metaphors for expressing an idea. So a symbol can have multiple meanings. So here I've jotted down a few different meanings. You know, it could mean toast, it could mean celebration, a party, alcohol, glasses. Can anyone else think of some other meanings? What could the symbol mean? Something snapping, yeah, something fragile, yeah. Fun. So all you need to do really is to build your visual vocabulary using a few simple icons and use that as a metaphor. So you don't need to draw everything. You just need to draw some simple things. You can add a bit of interest to your icons by applying shadows and highlights. So the tip to drawing shadows, and you can try this out by putting some shadows on your containers, is to stick to either the left or the right and the bottom. So over here, I'm just thickening the left and the bottom lines. So with the rectangle there, I'm thickening that vertical line on the left and thickening that bottom line there. With that triangle, similarly on the left and at the bottom. Now with highlights on circles, all you need to do is to draw a little curve. It doesn't have to meet the edges, just that little pop. Now I'm going to give you a few templates that you can use in your meetings. So very simple template. Pop the name of the meeting there, the time and the place, the participants, put their names down there on the corner, the agenda, maybe guiding principles, and you might want to document the outcomes. Here's another template that I like to use in project inceptions. It's a metaphor about taking the project on a journey or taking the team on a journey. So you're starting out here and you're building out towards that end goal. So you could use this as a metaphor for what is the end goal? What's that sun over there in the horizon? And what are the signposts that we need to cross? So the next time you think of doing a Gantt chart, maybe try doing this. This is a template that I use for sketchnoting conferences. So you're going to do this for the next speaker session. So what you're going to do is take a blank sheet of paper, draw a little box for the speaker's picture, write down their name. So we will have Samantha Patel. She's the next speaker. And the title of the talk is Defining Facilitation Techniques and Frameworks. Okay, and then you're going to draw a little icon on the bottom there to help you remember what the conference was about. So this is the IT Architecture Forum. So try and visualize that. Visualize IT architecture in a little icon. And then just put your little signature there so people can reach out to you if you post these sketch notes on social media. Now I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to is Samantha in the room? No, she's not in the room. I was going to get her to stand up and get people to draw her. But maybe we'll try that another day. And if you were ever stuck for ideas, I cheat a lot by going to this website called thenownproject.com. It's basically a huge dictionary of icons. So thenownproject.com. Pinterest is really great. If you search for Sketchnotes on Pinterest, there's a website called the Sketchnote Army. It's curated by the guy behind Sketchnotes, Mike Road. There's a Facebook group called Graphic Facilitation with 12,000 members. And Google Images is really, really great. So the takeouts that I want you to take out of this session is to visualize your work. Remember the power of visualization. Having something visualized and tangible that you can take from meeting to meeting or refer back to or use to start a conversation, that is so powerful. Number 2, you don't need to be an artist. You don't need to be an artist to sketchnote. It's about capturing ideas, distilling key messages, using simple icons. And lastly, the next time you're going to have a meeting, take a pen and paper and sketchnote. That's enough of my talk. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll open it up for questions.
I can't help but keep on thinking, but I'm crap at drawing. Oh, I put it out there and show my drawings and the likes. But I think it's about practice, isn't it? And I think, I was thinking about some of the stuff we raised earlier around, you're engaging the execs. And I must admit, when I'm pulling stuff together, I often think, what I create it engaging? To create a 10-page document, you go, there's so much stuff coming across their table, and they're going, why are they going to remember or even read and remember what you've done? And I think just diagrams and sketches are so much more powerful, in terms of achieving that. So I think, that is the difference. Question I did actually had for you was, real-time drawing versus redraws. You listen to a session and say, I'm just going to note this all down in kind of sketch form, but of course I'm just feeling I'm doing that little. If I'm going to show that to others, I may want to redraw it. So what's the process here? Typically, when you're good at it, you can do it once as you're doing it, and then that's it. But if you're not so confident, or you're going to have to share it with others, you might have to redraw it. Is that reasonable?
A couple of different ways you can go about doing that. Tablets are great. Digital sketches are great because you can always go back and change them up. You can start sketching in pencil, or you could actually just take key bullet points. Take bullet notes and do a sketch note retrospectively. I find that really helps me reinforce the concepts in the presentation or a meeting, and it's okay to do that after the fact and then share it afterwards. So you don't have to get it spot on straight away.
I don't know if some of you have seen, there's a lot of that kind of YouTube videos come out now around professional development and trying to get messages across. One of my favourite ones is the video around leadership, submarine captain. Maybe look it up on YouTube, and it's all just sketches, and it tells a story. It's very powerful, and it just absolutely reinforces the message and what they're actually telling by kind of cartoon sketches, and it kind of just tells a journey. I do actually think it's a very powerful way of communicating. We're trying to get across a story. I think it's really good. We've got one question there on Slido. Maybe guys, if there's any other questions. I think we've got a few more minutes to go. Are there any circumstances where sketchnotes distract from the actual message?
They can, which is why I tend to do graphic facilitation, which is at the other end of the spectrum, where I use it as a tool to invite the participants into the conversation. And I'll say, hey, this is what I got from the conversation. What do you think? Can you expand on this idea? So when you do a sketch note, sometimes it is also important to present that back and say, hey, what do you guys think? Because it's a record of a shared conversation. So they can be distracting. I don't find that happens very often because I use it as a personal thing for my own personal meetings.
Well, there's both, isn't there? Of course, there's that, which is you capturing information. To me, they feel more powerful if you're going to share them, though. I think that's definitely the trick. And I suppose this next question kind of alludes to that, and I do somewhat agree. If you're in a meeting, stuff's going quickly, and you say, well, I could write notes. We're pretty good at that, and do it forever. Or we could just start transitioning, or at least for the right circumstances, start doing these sketches. But it's pretty hard to keep up, and to draw something versus write a note against what you've heard. So how do you manage that speed?
So remember the key about sketchnoting is you don't want to be an artist. You just want to draw a simple icon. Don't get carried away. You can always pretty it up retrospectively, But it actually helps me think. It helps me distill ideas. And to draw a really quick icon, yeah, it's different to drawing that sketch of that duck.
And there's a process you've got to go through. You've got to say, these are the words, what's my visual for that? And unless you start doing it, you're not going to...
If you're stuck for ideas, just put a word there and draw a box around it.
Yeah. And I think everybody was interested, oh, is this a new method for replacing formal minutes? I quite like this. Or maybe not. And like most things, horses for courses.
I've never done formal minutes. I've always just taken photos of flip charts. I find that a lot more engaging. But does it replace formal minutes? It depends on your needs and how you're going to use those notes, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's that kind of formality and precision in terms of your message, which like the minutes, there is precision, and minutes will be played back, and people will analyse what exactly did that person say. Where I think for this, we're trying to get themes and messages across graphics.
So I've done workshops and project retrospectives, and I produce these drawings, and we've got lots of post-its. Quite often, I just take photos and share them. And then we've got project managers in the room who actually retrospectively generate Excel spreadsheets from those diagrams because they need to, because they need a common format to compare against between different project retrospectives. So, you can use formal meeting minutes to supplement these notes.
And the next one's kind of related. It's a good one. When sharing, how do you deal with relative ambiguity in terms of sketches compared to written notes?
Yeah, ambiguity, I guess it's having a conversation. That's the whole point of Sketchnotes, is to really create a connection with someone. But if there's ambiguity around an icon, just put some words around it. Yeah, so, yeah.
I think you're right, you touched on it there. It's about having the conversation. It isn't about something happened, here's my sketch notes, there we go, see you later. And it's like, well, I can't really work out exactly what's happened, but it's like, okay, we had the session, and I've really tried to write up the themes for sketches, and then having a conversation, and it'll be, well, what's that mean? Okay, well, it's a method of having a conversation, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, I think we're pretty much tracking okay, guys. So maybe thanks Zhi again for presenting on Sketchnotes. I think they're very interesting.